Good morning, guys. We're going to continue today with Who Cloned the President. We're going to read chapters 5 and 6. I am not really going to go over the beginning part of the book here, but if you want to see the review and the summary of the book, we will do that live at 8:45 after our morning meeting. So I will post that video if you want to watch that later. So here we are. Who Cloned the President, chapter 5. It's called Two Presidents. Casey tugged Marshall into a dark corner. "It's him! He's in there!" she hissed. "Who?" Marshall hissed right back. "The president," she whispered, "with a bunch of other guys." Casey peeked into the room again. This time she noticed the president's eyes. They looked weird, but they did like they did when she saw him on TV. She backed away from the door and grabbed Marshall's arm. "Marsh, that's not the president there. It's a clone." Marshall peeked into the room. "I hate to admit it, but I think you're right," Marshall said. "He looks like a zombie." "What are you doing?" Casey asked. What are they doing?" Casey asked. "The clone is in pajamas and a robe," Marshall reported. "3 other guys are with him. They're smoking cigars and watching I Love Lucy." Marshall backed away from the door. "Okay, we found the clone. Now what?" Casey opened her backpack and pulled out her tape recorder. She tiptoed back to the door. She clicked on the tape recorder. A deep voice was talking. "We pulled it off, fellas. Everyone thinks our guy is really the president." Other voices joined in. "Make millions of dollars. Can't wait to see the headlines when we spring our little plan." Casey hoped the recorder was picking up every word. The hum of the tape told her she was getting something at least. She stared at the president's clone. He was slumped in a chair, wearing slippers, red pajamas, and a blue bathrobe. His eyes looked cold and dead. 2 men in dark suits sat at the table. On it were paper and pens, a small TV, and a few cans of soda. The third man stood by the clone. He was dressed in a white coat, the kind doctors wear. Suddenly, a rough hand grabbed Casey by the arm. She turned around. A guard was glaring down at her. The guard's other hand was clamped on Marshall's shoulder. "March, you two," the guard said. He shoved Casey and Marshall into the room. The 3 men looked up. The clone didn't budge. And here's a picture of the doctor, the man in the white coat like a doctor, and the president clone. "Well, what have we here?" the man in the doctor's suit said. Moving like an eel, he crossed the room. "I found him in the hall," the guard said, "playing peekaboo outside the door." The guard's breath smelled like sweaty sneakers. His fingers felt like iron on the back of Casey's neck. "Explain yourselves, please," the man in white said. His voice bubbled like he was underwater. "We were on a tour and got lost," Casey said. The man laughed. "A tour at 10:30? In the White House basement?" "I don't think so." Casey had never seen a scarier face. His head was totally bald. Pale blue eyes bugged out and his teeth were yellow. His arm shot out. "I'll just have that recorder, please." "No, you won't," Casey said. "I need it for a school report." The man grabbed the recorder out of her hands. He pushed the rewind button, then pressed play. Everyone in the room heard the men's voices. The man in white glared at Casey. "Quite the little liar, aren't you?" he said. "I'm not "It's all my fault," Marshall said. "See, we were on a tour, then I decided to go look for the president." Marshall smiled innocently at the glaring men. "I wanted the president's autograph, so I talked my friend into helping me look for him." Marshall turned to the clone. "Hi, Mr. President. Can I have your autograph?" The clone didn't even blink. "The brat's lying through his teeth," one of the other men barked. "We'll get the truth later," the man in white said. "For now, they can join our friend. Bring them to the storage room." "May I please have my tape recorder?" Casey asked. "I really need it for school." The man in the white coat showed his yellow teeth. Then he threw the machine to the floor. When it hit, the tape ejected. Still grinning, the man ground the tape and recorder, under his foot. Soon they were nothing but mashed bits of plastic. All the men laughed. "Take these brats away," the man in the lab coat snapped at the guard. The guard dragged Casey and Marshall back into the dark hallway. They both struggled, but the man was too strong. Casey yelled. No one came to help. "Shut up or you'll be sorry," the guard snapped. "You're the one who'll be sorry," said Marshall. "My dad is a lawyer." "Big deal," the man growled. "My old man's a bank robber." Halfway down the hall, the guard unlocked a door. He shoved Marshall and Casey into a dark room. The door slammed behind them. Casey heard the lock turn. "Are you okay?" Marshall asked. Casey couldn't see him. The room was pitch black. "Yeah, I'm all right," she said, rubbing the back of her neck. "How about you?" "I'm okay, but what's that smell?" Marshall asked. "It's like my dad's aftershave lotion." Shh, I hear something, Casey said. Marshall leaned against her in the dark. Don't say that. I'm scared enough. They both stood and listened, holding on to each other. Hello? A voice said from out of the darkness. Ah! Marshall yelled. Someone's in here with us! Casey dug for her flashlight and switched it on. The beam shone on a tired-looking, familiar face. It's okay, Marsh, Casey said. We just found President Thornton. And now on to Chapter 6, which is titled Locked In. The president blinked at the light. He looked tired. The skin under his eyes was saggy, as if he needed sleep. He was wearing a rumpled blue suit and a red tie. What do you want? He asked. Casey told the president how she had figured out that he had been cloned and about her plan to rescue him. The president stared at Casey. Cloned? He asked, rubbing the stubble on his chin. Did they drug you, sir? Casey asked. Is that why you don't remember? The president nodded slowly. Yes, I must have been drugged. By those goons who caught us? Marshall asked. I guess, the president agreed. I can't remember. Casey shone the flashlight around the room. There was a small bed, a chair, and a radio on a table. On one side was a tiny bathroom. Mr. President, your clone is making an important announcement tomorrow, she said. He's going to tell the world that it's okay to clone humans. The president didn't say anything. He must be exhausted, thought Casey. We have to stop them, she went on. Otherwise, those guys will run the world, Marshall interrupted. Yes, stop them, the president said. Here's a picture of the president talking to Casey and Marshall when they found him. Casey flashed her light on the door. First, we have to get out of here, she said. Marshall tried the handle. Good luck. The door's locked from the outside. Casey examined the door hinges. Hand me my knife, she said to Marshall. She dug it out of her backpack. Casey opened the screwdriver part of her knife. She began removing the hinge screws. She stood on a chair to reach the top ones. There were 2 hinges with 4 screws in each. It took Casey 5 minutes, but finally she handed Marshall the last screw. Done, she said. Casey and Marshall removed the door and leaned it against the wall. Casey peeked around the corner. The corridor was dark and empty. Let's go. Shouldn't we put this door back? Marshall said. What if some guard sees it off the hinges like this? Casey and Marshall managed to set the door in its opening and replace the hinge screws. They left the door closed. With the president walking between them, Casey and Marshall tiptoed back down the hall. They stopped outside the door where the kids had gotten caught. The light's still on, Casey whispered. The room was quiet. When Casey peeked around the door, she jumped. The other men were gone, but the clone was still sitting in his chair. Now he was wide awake and tied with thick rope. His mouth was covered with tape. He was struggling to get free. We've got to get out of here, Casey said. She thought fast. Could you come to my apartment? She asked the president. You can sleep in the guest room. My mom voted for you. The president looked around uneasily. Yes, let's go. Wait. I sat under a bed for 6 hours for this. Marshall picked up a paper and pen off the table. Mr. President, may I have your autograph? Marshall, Casey groaned. We're trying to escape here. But the president had already taken the pen and scrawled his signature. Marshall beamed. Casey nearly fainted. He had signed with his right hand. So that's the end of chapters 5 and 6. We will be discussing this, as I said, today after our morning meeting. So if you're unable to join and you view this and then you have any questions, make sure you reach out. See you soon.